Hey, Cinnamon Bun. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence after Tulsa was a flop. Out of the blue, now suddenly you want to go ahead and ban TikTok? Didn't think this through, little Donnie, did you? Not much of a businessman. You can ban this app, there'll be a new one. Supply where there's demand. But oh my honey, got another thing coming if you think we're going down without a fight. You can try and censor us, Barks attempt plus the Constitution's on our side. I don't know if you've heard, it's a little absurd, this thing called the First Amendment. You only know the second because it'll let you have a weapon. Sit down and I'll give you a lesson. The First Amendment of the Constitution is democracy's fundamentals, like freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and the right to peacefully assemble. So you may not like the things we say, but free speech can't be banned. And they might call you commander-in-chief, don't mean you're in command.
Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope you're doing really well in this moment in time, and that whenever and wherever you happen to be, as Mercury is going direct, that your life is starting to go a little faster, a little more forward, and I hope that today you finally found the impetus to go in the direction of your dreams again, directly. I also hope that whenever and wherever you are, that you are in full awareness that you deserve to be in a relationship in which the other person is not constantly talking you up a ledge. We have all had bad relationships in the past. If you're an adult and you're in your 20s or more, when you get to be my age, you have several relationships that were bad, where the other person just gets you so wound up and so upset. And you know, we've all had abusive people in our lives, right? And I hope that you can understand that when you find your one and your good person that is good for you and that you're good for, that when you have that PTSD from past relationships, sometimes you'll talk yourself up a ledge. You deserve that person that will patiently, calmly stand by you, talk you down off your own ledge that you put yourself up on, and eventually you come to a point where there's no more ledges. You don't go up anymore, only to come crashing down. I hope that you understand all that there is to loving yourself, and one of the biggest things in loving yourself is actually being in a decent relationship where you are not constantly hoping for, begging for, prying for attention, but that the other person just gives it freely, automatically, openly, just that affection and the love that you deserve. That you don't have to worry that you're not being loved enough or cared for enough. Now I'm not talking about being, what do they call that when you're really affectionate and the other person's an asshole? What do they call that? Being needy. It's not always being needy or clingy, right? They always say, why are you so clingy? It's like, oh my God, I've been with a lot of people that were, not a lot, but I've had a few relationships where the other person was so out of touch emotionally. They didn't even know what they needed, let alone how to provide me what I needed in the relationship. And even with not only a roadmap, but straight up, hey, I need this. I need this. This is what I need in order to have a happy relationship. And if you can't or are unwilling to provide that, then we can only be friends, right? I've always been very straight up with people that I have dated in the past. But it's funny to me, like, if you write somebody, like you text them 2 or 3 times a week, and you text them like, hey, hope you're doing well. And then after like a week, they're like, you're so clingy. It's like, what? No, I don't think so. I mean, if you text them, 2 or 3 times every 10 minutes, that's clingy, that's needy. It's a bit much. But I don't know, I've had people say to me that I was being needy and clingy and high maintenance or whatever when I write them like 3 sentences a week. And it's not that I'm high maintenance, it's just that they are low effort. So you deserve somebody who is going to put in the effort and who is going to understand your needs and also be willing to provide your needs. And not that you are a needy person and you need so much, but you do need basic common decency. You do need respect. You do need affection in the appropriate amount. Now, I don't mean hanging all over each other and slobbering at every moment you get outside in public. It's okay to hold hands. That's appropriate. It's okay to kiss once in a while. But I don't mean, a 30-minute Frenching makeout session. That's not appropriate. And did you know, by the way, that couples that do that out in public and kiss out in public, they're not doing it so much indoors, away from the prying public eye. Actually, when people are very, very affectionate in public, researchers have uncovered that they're actually not under the covers so much behind closed doors. And that a lot of couples that are very strict about no PDAs are actually a lot more affectionate in private, and I'm a person that I am very affectionate and I'm very open with my emotions and everything, but I don't like making out a lot in public, but I do want to hold hands. I don't mind an appropriate kiss, hugging. I remember when I was married for 13 years, my husband and I would hold hands walking through the grocery store, even with kids in the cart. Like, we actually were always very affectionate, but not overly so. It was just appropriate. And people always thought that was inspirational. When we broke up, the whole community, the people that knew us, they cried. Other people cried at my breakup. It was ridiculous. I had to comfort more people than comforted me. Because they were so heartbroken. Like, if love is that strong and that amazing can end, then what hope does the rest of the world have, I guess, is what they thought. But no one has any hope when there's brain cancer involved. So, there's that. Shit happens. We move on. We learn from it, and we take the happy memories with us. And, we cling to the happy memories and we delete the bad memories, but we forgive. We never forget. You can never forget. And we all have those people, though, that talked us into an emotional point of chaos. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's cathartic, sometimes it actually makes you move away from those people. Makes you feel like, well, that was the end of that relationship, and then you kind of plot your escape, your retreat. You're like, in the middle of the night, instead of counting sheep, you're counting how many suitcases in the closet and how much stuff you could shove in them, and you're like, okay, well, they're going to be gone between this hour and that hour, and that's what I make my escape. Yes. There are those kind of relationships too, but you deserve somebody who's going to love you and be there for you and support you emotionally and give you, their time and their love. I mean, it's not about money or about what they can do for you. It's not about them rescuing you, and if it is, then you need to rescue yourself and forget being in a relationship for the moment. You know, if you're trying to find someone to rescue, you know, you could take in a stray puppy, but don't take in a stray man. You know, don't take in a stray woman. Like, you know, let the other person, if you're interested in them, let them help themselves. Help them if you can, but don't help them in a way that you don't get into a relationship with someone so that they're not homeless, for example, right? That's not good. So just know that you deserve somebody who can provide their points in the partnership. You know, maybe you're super wealthy and you don't need, you know, someone to provide financially, but what you need is you need their time. But also don't get somebody who's just going to be a leech. You know what I mean? You deserve someone who's not going to just leech off of every little effort you make. I mean, if you're working 60 hours a week and they're, you know, like Jez on Peep Show, just doing their music and trying to find their sound, you know, that's like a kind of a crappy roommate, you know, even though he was supportive of his roommate in you know, Mark, in that relationship. And if you've never seen the show, highly recommend. It's hilarious. If you aren't afraid to find out what goes on in the minds of some men, I suppose. Two totally different kinds of personality types living together. It's kind of a modern day Felix and Oscar situation, you know, odd couple. But it's important to only accept the best for yourself, you know. I mean, don't have impossibly high standards, but don't ever lower your standards in order to be loved and accepted by somebody, you know. I've been thinking about relationships a lot, and I just kind of feel like I would rather be alone and single than to settle for somebody who is less than worthy of the efforts I've already put into my own life and myself, you know, in my spiritual practice. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really want to be with somebody who is absolutely unwilling to take 10 minutes of their day to meditate. You know, it's very basic. I don't mind if someone's spiritually unaware or that they weren't interested in that before. That's okay, you know, but somebody who just won't honor the fact that I need my time to meditate, or that I need my space spiritually to contemplate the cosmos. Like, I have so many deep questions in my mind and in my heart, and my soul is constantly searching, and I always want to be in the realm of my spirituality, you know. Like, I always want to be thinking and contemplating about God and about everything, you know. And I've had men that just every 5 or 10 minutes, do you think I look good? Do I look good? And it's like, who the F cares about what you look like? Like, yeah, you're handsome. I told you that like a week ago. Do I have to say it every 10 minutes? Like, you know, I've had guys try to like act like they're going to be my boyfriend, and then they're only concerned about their vanity, their looks. And it's like, I'm contemplating birth and death and rebirth and life and the ascension of all humankind, and you worried if you have a pimple on your face? Like, dude, who cares? You know? I don't care about that. Like, I can't handle people that are shallow like that. You know, I need people who are very deep, contemplative, you know, people who are willing to read a fucking book, you know. I've had other men interested in me that are just like, you read? You know? It's like, God, oh my God. It's like, and usually my response to that is, you don't? You know, and not everybody likes to read, and that's okay, but the fact that they won't even watch a documentary or learn anything about life or anything, even archaeology, or even wanting to watch freaking Shark Week, you know what I mean? Like, I've met people that just don't want any knowledge in their mind at all. They just want to look at themselves in the mirror, take the selfies, and have sex, you know? And it's like I could get a sex robot from Japan for that, for those things. I just, I need a really deep human, and I know that if you're listening to this show and you've been listening to me for a while, you're probably the same. You probably need a deep human too. And it's not enough just to have, a good-looking person with money and then not a brain in a pretty little head. Like, you don't need that. No one needs that. Well, some people want that. Some people are the same. Like, they're just like, hey, I just want the shallow surface stuff in life. And people in my life have been like that. My mother was very much a very, very shallow person. Like, she was just about shopping and, oh, look what I got. Oh, I got this piece of art it was on sale, and oh, look at this scarf, look at this sweater. This sweater's to die for. Oh my God, and I'm like, wow. I wasn't raised by her. She's my birth mom was like that. And then she'd talk about Jesus once in a while, and then it was just back to the shopping thing. Sometimes she'd talk about politics. I mean, she wasn't super shallow, but it was really hard to have a relationship, even just to hang out with her was really, it was hard for me, just, yeah, would you look at that? Wow, that color. Wow, so shiny. I mean, it was just so hard, but I've come to realize that I would rather be alone than to be with somebody who isn't at my level on at least, someone who's thinking and wants to read books and interested in life and engaged in the mystery and wanting that, just that the joy of discovery and educating themselves, and hey, let's go to a museum and let's travel the world and learn new languages and learn about new cultures and how do other people think, what do other people do, I just need more stimulation than, I need intellectual, spiritual, emotional connection, and I feel like too many of us settle, whether we're, it doesn't matter if we're, gay, straight, bi, male, female, somewhere in between all of these, just basically genderqueer, it doesn't matter, because we're human beings, and at the core of it, we need what we need, and there's nothing wrong with being shallow. And like my mom, she was just super fun to be around, always laughing and joking. Everybody loved her company, and her husband was pretty much the same. He was maybe a little bit deeper person. He didn't really let it show, but I think he was just kind of happy with not having to think beyond what's for dinner, babe. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he longed for deeper conversations too much. So it was good for, it was good for my mom. Like, they had a good relationship, and they were not totally happy, but they were okay. I feel like whatever it is that you're seeking, there's nothing wrong with being one way or the other, but whatever it is that you're seeking, you need to realize that you deserve that thing that you need, that those things that you want, you deserve that. And if you can't find someone to provide it, it's okay to be alone and provide it for yourself for right now. And if you're already in a relationship and that drama thing keeps, it's like this pendulum swinging back and forth, and you're just like, okay, when we're in the middle of that swing, everything's fine, but when it goes way over to the right, oh no, that's you going off the ledge, and goes all the way over to the left, oh, it's me going off the ledge, and and there's this pendulum swinging, and you keep going back between extremes, and unless you enjoy that sort of life, and some people love that passion and that drama and that intensity, but a lot of people just would rather go to bed and read and contemplate and think and be deep on a different level. Instead of deep drama, they want, deep contemplation. And so I hope that if you are in a relationship and it's very dramatic, that you're able to work it out and figure it out and realize that if it's baggage from a past relationship, that can be dealt with. And if it's a fear of constantly losing the other person, I had that when I was 18. I was always like, my first relationship, I was always like, I was on pins and needles. Is he going to come home? And then, is he cheating on me? Is he dead? Is he, it was like ridiculous, and now if I'm in a relationship and the person comes home late, I'll say, are you okay? I'm mature enough to say, hey, are you all right? Did something happen? Do you want to talk about it? Do you need a moment? Do you need your, 30 minutes alone? Do you need quiet? Want me to make you a sandwich? Like, I don't freak out when the other person doesn't come home exactly when I expect. In fact, I expect people to do what they need to do for themselves, and I need to provide for myself my own security, my own stability emotionally, my own just sense of safety if I can. And if the other person makes me feel unsafe, I don't need to be there. If they make me insecure, then that's their hang up and I need to leave. And I've become very, very strong as a person. Of course, traveling and living in 6 different countries will do that, especially when none of them really are English as a first language countries. I've lived in 6 countries where Spanish is the first language, and I've become a very, very strong person. It's like I've learned to be very independent and self-reliant, thank God. And after 13 years being dependent on my husband, it was really, really hard to not have that person to rely on for everything, like help me with the laundry, help me with the dishes, help me with the kids. I haven't had help since 2009, actually. So it's been a long journey, and during this time I've realized that we all deserve this sort of harmony and balance in our home life. If you end up living with somebody, it should be kind of a mutual partnership. Maybe she's going to provide all the money, but you provide the home support, and there's nothing wrong with that if it works for you guys, right? But having this system, it's like a system, it's like an ecosystem, it's a relationship ecosystem, and everybody deserves to have all of their needs to be met, right? And there's nothing wrong. You're not being extra, you're not being overly clingy or emotionally needy if you need a hug every day. In fact, we all need 12 hugs a day to be mentally and emotionally healthy. And people that don't get that a lot of times die of loneliness. You can die of a broken heart, and I haven't had that. I haven't had a relationship in 3.5 years. It's been rough not having just basic affection, but I'm not willing to settle because I'm stubborn as hell. It's like I hug my son once in a great while. I hug the dogs that come over, once a day. I get to pet the puppies when they come in. At night they get a little bit cold and they miss us, so we get affection from the dogs. They demand it. They'll stand in front of us and lean on us. It's like, oh my God. And yesterday Lobo came and he drooled all over my foot and he drooled all over my leg. I was covered in dog slobber. I'm like, oh my God. Because he was so happy to see me. And he hadn't had affection because he was sick for like a week, and he had to be chained up with a cone on his head and keep him very, very clean. It was like ridiculous. And as soon as he got the cone off, they let him run around the neighborhood again. And he's finally so happy. And so he's like drooling when he comes over. And he didn't do this before, but now he's just like, he needed that, for like a whole week. He wasn't being pet enough, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like if a dog or a cat, wants affection from you, are you just like, God, you're so emotionally clingy, you know what I mean? Some cats can be super, super insecure and very too affectionate. I have had cats like that. It's like, oh my God, it's a ridiculously huge amount of time per day, When you have a cat that won't leave you alone for 8 or 10 hours a day, it's ridiculous. I have had roommates that have animals like that. It's like, oh my God. But if someone is telling you that you're not right somehow, or that you're crazy, or that you're not good enough, or, you need to start to reevaluate, what do you really need in your life? Do you need somebody who's throws you an emotional bone, a little love kernel? They'll throw you a little bit of a, hey, I like those jeans on you. And then you live on that compliment for 4 days because that's all they've given you. If you live in a relationship like that, it's not living, really. Narcissists do that, like when you start to realize that this is not going to work out and I'm the hell out of here. Sociopaths too, it's like I can't, they're not respecting me. They're like mocking me. They're making fun of me. They're not being, emotionally supportive. They're not there for me. They're not giving me my needs. I gave them a list of things, of things that I need in my life. And it's like if you have to, and if you haven't given your partner a list of your needs and they're willing to work with you, but you haven't really ever expressed it because you felt guilty about it, like you feel, oh, maybe I shouldn't be so needy and asking what I need. No, that's not being needy. It's not being needy at all. You have to tell people, look, this is the thing. I like to kiss on the mouth. I like to hug. I need several hugs a day. I don't need 50 hugs a day. That's excessive. I don't need to hold your hand, for 6 hours in a row. That's ridiculous. But you know what? I would like to sit and hold your hand for a few minutes every now and again, twice a day, maybe once a day, maybe when we fall asleep. Maybe can I put my feet right on top of your feet, or vice versa. Maybe I need to hold your hand. I want to know that you're there, so I feel comforted by that. Because there might be a day you're not there, and I'll be comforted by the memory of that. That could be a very sweet thing to, a way to say it. I would like the memory of always having this one constant in my life, that kiss good morning, that first smile in the morning, that last hug at night before we fall asleep. There's nothing wrong with asking for those things. And there's nothing wrong with needing to cook together. Maybe on Saturdays we make a meal together and you build the memories. If they don't cook, at least they could watch you while you cook, so you're not alone in the kitchen. Maybe, whether you're a man or a woman or whatever, it doesn't matter. Usually there's like an imbalance, and I know in my marriage it was awesome because we both cooked. I always thought my husband loved to cook because he always jumped into the kitchen to go do it. And I realized after 7 or 8 years, I was talking to my mom and she's like, I can't believe you've got a man that cooks. How did you do that? That's amazing. I'm like, oh, he loves to cook. He's always cooking, and like I'll be planning the meal and I'll walk in the kitchen and he's already making it, and she's like, oh, it's amazing. Well, he got so mad and he left the room and he wouldn't talk to me for like an hour. And then later he's like, I don't love to cook. And I'm like, really? Then why do you cook all the time? He's like, because I have to. I'm like, you don't have to. Like, if you don't really want to cook, I will cook. I don't mind cooking every day. I love to cook, you're right? He's like, it's fine, and then we kind of worked it out. But I was like, what? You don't love to cook? How could you not love it? You're so good at it. Like, you're always like trying to perfect your recipes, you're really, really good at it. And you have all these recipes in your mind, and you've taught me all these tricks, and I thought you really genuinely loved to cook. He's like, well, no, we just have to eat, that's all. And I don't know if he was just moody, it might have been a pre-cancerous thing even back then, but it was like ridiculous. I was like, oh, I thought you liked to cook. Because he was. Every other day we took turns. We took turns cooking. We took turns doing the dishes. Whoever cooked doesn't have to do dishes till the next day, and we just kind of worked it out. And sometimes I just did the dishes every day. I don't care. I had a dishwasher, so I loved that. I mean, now I'm like, ugh, I don't even want to do the dishes. I'll do them, but I don't really like to because, I don't have a drying rack, and it takes forever for them to dry, and it drives me crazy. So I have all these dishes laying out. I'd rather they dry in an hour and then put them away, and then everything looks clean and neat. I'm a Virgo, so I want it all or nothing. I either want to clean and have it all perfect in an hour, or I don't even want to clean at all, so I end up messy. But you deserve somebody in your life that is all of the things that you need and all the things that you want. Why get involved with somebody who has never left the town you live in and has no desire to even go to one city over, when your biggest passion is travel or travel photography? If you have something in your life like that that's overwhelmingly beautiful and wonderful, and you want to share it with the other person, and they have absolutely no interest whatsoever, don't you think you deserve somebody who wants to be a travel partner, who will, go to Bali or Thailand or China or Siberia with you, that will actually be up for that adventure? Who wants to go sandboarding in Ica, Peru? One of my most favorite activities ever, by the way. I love sandboarding. My kids were like, oh my God, Mom, this is so scary to see me going down a mountain head first on a sandboard. It's one of the most ridiculous activities in the world, and apparently it's very dangerous, and you can snap your neck, all sorts of shit can happen, but oh my God, I'm like laughing, and get to the bottom of the hill, and I'm like rolling around in the sand, laughing my head off. Is one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in my life. Just going down a sand dune head first. There's nothing better than that feeling of that rush. It was amazing. It was like a natural high, and then watching the sunset over the dunes was a pretty incredible. It's a pretty incredible memory, actually, and I wouldn't mind going back and repeating that experience someday. The only hard part is getting back up. Can you imagine climbing this massive sand dune? It's ridiculously hard, but fun and worth it, But you deserve somebody who's gonna be there for you, and you don't have to have everything in common. It's awesome. I hope I hope my twin flame is musical. I hope that maybe sings, plays guitar. I have a feeling he does, actually. I have a feeling he's absolutely very musical, and I love music. I love listening to music, and I would love to contribute, but I'm super unmusical, but I could write lyrics, and I've always been with people who have an ability that I don't, but that I can admire. I love that. Energy of exchange. Like, they can read my writing, and they like to read my stuff, and oh, hey, it's very funny, or it's very thoughtful, it's thought-provoking, I like your, and then I could say, I love your music, and I love your voice, and it makes me happy. It would be heart-healing for me to have a man that plays guitar and sings. And I would love that. So you don't have the same exact things in common. That's not a problem. You know, if you love antiquing and your woman doesn't, and you were like, you know what, I want to go antiquing. Well, you could always find an antiquing partner. You go together, get the deals, come home, go, look what I got. This is so cool. I got a Victorian cart. I could put my drinks on it now. My mint juleps or my iced teas or whatever, you know. Long Island iced tea, however you do it. I don't know. I don't know what you people do. No. I don't know how anyone actually lives their life, but and for me it'd be tea. It'd be absolute tea or coffee, especially coffee. But you deserve someone that respects your plate. If you're a vegan, you deserve somebody who respects what you eat. But if they're a meat eater, you need to respect them too, right? And maybe your thing is you don't want anyone who's not a vegan around you. That's okay, you know? I've lived with vegetarians when I was still eating meat, and I would not eat meat in the house. I respected them. I loved them. They were my roommates, and they were some of the coolest people in the world. And so when I cooked at home, it was only vegan meals or vegetarian meals. They were okay with cheese. They were okay with milk, but they didn't want us to cook meat because it made them nauseated. It gave them a nauseous feeling, and they didn't like the energy of it. And I'm like, okay, I respect that. I mean, that's cool. I mean, I'm Native American, and I mean, sometimes the animals will come into my room that I'm eating, and I'll thank them for their sacrifice, and they thank me for remembering them. You know, because nothing lives forever, not even us. You know, would that I could, I'd be a vegan. You know, or, you know, vegetarian. And I eat vegetarian many days a week anyway, but if I could only live without eating meat, I would. But it's just not my genetic code to want that. My body's, I mean, when I tried to do vegan I got very sick. I get really sick and run down, and I just feel like I want to die. I have a hamburger, and I feel like I want to race a marathon. It's so strange. I have the opposite of what everyone else. I don't know. I have the dyslexia problem. I think my body's dyslexic. Just kidding. But anyway, I just wanted to remind you guys of that, because it's like super important to respect yourself and your own needs, and to to have a list of everything you want in a partner, and then they fulfill like 30% of it. That's not really living, and maybe you're not even fulfilling 30% of theirs too. So reevaluate it this time. You know, if it turns out maybe they provide 70%, but maybe we could eke out a few more percentage points. Hey, you know, maybe having a sit down and a really decent talk with that person. You know, if they're like super sporty and you like to stay home, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you have home activities, or you have activities that you can do together, you know. Maybe you could go play pool in a pool house, or you can maybe go swimming at the gym together. That's super fun. Me, and I don't even swim very well, but I like doing the underwater aerobics. It's kind of fun. Maybe you could go on a nature hike together. It's kind of sporty, but not totally, and it's not a homebody thing, but maybe you'll learn something, you know. Maybe you could be open-minded for their activities, and maybe they'll be open-minded for yours. You know, they also deserve happiness, and they deserve all the things that make them feel loved and safe and secure and stable in their own home. And I think that these are very, very important points. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed, by the way, the Maya2960. That is the name of her TikTok. I thought she was super clever, and I wanted to play that for you guys because I thought that was one of the coolest things. My son found that today, and it's basically part of the conversation, the larger conversation of how the president of the United States wants to ban TikTok in the United States. I was like, sorry, you know what? Another one will come right on up. There'll be another app immediately. if you ban it. In fact, I'm sure it's already in the works. So if that gets banned, well, we'll have another one. Vines isn't anymore, but now we got TikTok. TikTok isn't anymore. We're going to have the next thing. It's never going to stop. You can't stop it. First Amendment rights and everything. So I just thought that was clever. She's so amazing. And when she says, hey, cinnamon bun, I thought that was adorable. So I had to share that with you guys. Wanted to just, send love and light to John Travolta, who lost his wife to breast cancer yesterday, and all their families and all the people that were affected by it. And also, especially, let's send love and light to the family, especially the little son, the very young son of Naya Rivera, who played Santana on Glee, one of my favorite shows from years ago. I watched every last one of those shows. They were excellent, still on Netflix. And rest in peace, Santana. So sad. And Kelly Preston, too. I always get nervous, it's like, they say that Hollywood people die in threes, and I don't know, maybe the third one could be Harvey Weinstein. Two wonderful people we could throw away, okay, never mind. But I always get nervous because it's like, I hope that it's nobody that I really, love watching. And there's so many, a lot of people talk about Hollywood is this and Hollywood is that, and Hollyweird is, yeah, there's a few bad apples. There's a few bad apples in every bunch, whether it's Hollywood or your church. Okay, there's always, if it's in your neighborhood, there's always, some people that are bad. They're not always who you think, either, by the way. There's been plenty of good Christians that molested children, the Catholic Church, priests, So there's been a lot of weirdness, in the United States. There's so much violence going on. The police have become more brutal. They have decided that they are themselves the judge and the jury of the fucking world, and they're killing people, putting them in handcuffs and killing people randomly, left and right. And it's happening over and over and over again. Suddenly, the protests have taken an ugly turn. In a lot of places, they've become absolute riot and looting festivals instead of actual peaceful marches and protests. There's a lot of anger there. There's a lot of energy being dissipated. A lot of people are being very, very affected by the heat. A lot of people are having heat stroke. It is really hot in the United States right now. I'm sitting here in a sweater, and I finally took off my hat today. I had my Isla Amantani hat. I even put a picture of me wearing this hat. It was a lot to get this hat, let me tell you. In Peru, you can't just go to a one-stop shop in Lima and buy a hat with the name of the village from all over the country. They don't do that. You literally have to fight tooth and nail to get any hat that I've gotten. I've got my Cusco hat and my Coca Canyon hat. Maybe I'll do a hat series this week because, oh my God, seriously, this Isla Amantani hat, I was on a boat, I think, for 4 hours on this lake Titicaca, which is 12,000 feet above sea level, super hard to breathe. And when we got there, I had to climb a mountain to the lady's house we were staying at. And then we had to meet in the town square and climb another freaking mountain so that we could all get together and go on a hike up another third mountain. It was ridiculous. I had to stop every 2 or 3 steps. And I got halfway up that third mountain, and I have asthma. I couldn't do it. So instead, I found a little wall, and I sat down on the little wall, and I talked to this little boy who was absolutely adorable. And he and his little brother, he was 4, and his little brother was 2. And they asked me where I was from because I look really strange. They don't get a lot of white folk where they live, and their parents were running a little store, and I taught them English for like half hour, and it was really fun. I mean, I got to teach them their colors and their numbers and in English, and they were really happy, and the parents were so pleased, like, wow, my son's actually they're learning another language. This is really cool. And then at the same time, they were teaching me words in Spanish and also in their village tribal language that was not Spanish, because they had 2 languages already. So it was a cool memory, and I mean, I fought tooth and nail just to get this hat. I'm telling you, it was just really hard, man. It was a lot. My kids loved it. They walked all the way up that mountain. I couldn't believe it. Very proud that they were able to do that. I mean, this thousands of years old civilization on this little tiny island in the middle of frickin' nowhere in one of the coldest lakes in the world. You know, I mean, you can see the snow-capped mountains of Bolivia when you look in the right direction, and it was like absolutely pristine and beautiful, cold as frickin' hell. But anyway, if you guys want to go see that, that is on my Instagram, which is at mermaidgirl888. Let's see. If you haven't done it yet, I did put up 10 cloud pictures, or maybe 9 cloud pictures. If you wanted to go and practice finding symbols in the clouds. And in the cloud pictures I put up ones that I saw stuff in. I did see the letter X. I saw some weird shapes like triangles. I saw a dragon, a couple of different things. And one person actually commented, she saw a bunch of stuff. And she said it was amazing and good practice because she likes to read the clouds, and I do too. And there's always messages in the clouds for us. And if you do it right, there's messages in your teacup and in your coffee cup. And there's messages all the way around you when Spirit is trying to talk to you. And so you can go and look at my cloud pictures, and you might see something totally different than what I saw. Now, I didn't get that picture of Will Ferrell as that weird President of the Universe role. I was high as hell when I watched that movie. I don't even know what it's called. I don't think I fell asleep and dreamt it. I swear to God, this was a real role he did. But I saw him in the clouds the other day. I was like, oh my God. I didn't have and by the time I would have gone to get my phone and turn on the camera and come and try to get a picture of it, it would have been dissipated. But it made me laugh so hard. I was like, oh my God, that is one of the funniest faces I've ever seen. But every now and again, if you look at the negative space and you feel like the sky is a part of the picture, and you imagine that there are 3D images in the clouds, because there are. Well, now 5D, now that we're in 5D. But it's not just a flat, like, oh, that looks like a bunny kind of shape, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of faces with eyes. I mean, the dark part, the light part, you know, and in the sky. I saw my friend sent me, actually one of my listeners, she sent me a picture. She says, look, here's a picture of a dragon and a unicorn. How cool is that? And they're always in the clouds. Every time I look up, I see them. I'm like, that's really awesome. And I said, but who's the man in the clouds on the other side of the picture? She went, oh my God, I didn't see that. And it was like a 3D picture. I mean, it looked like really, like even the sky looked like his hair. It was very, very intense. So I wanted you guys to, if you're interested, if you want to go practice, you can go to my at mermaidgirl888 on Instagram and check it out, because it's always interesting once you start to see it. And maybe if I can eventually find, I have a lot of wood around me, and once in a great while I'll see faces in the wood, and sometimes the fairies that used to guard that tree will come out, and you'll see their face in the wood. And then the next time you go and look at the wood, you can't see it. You won't see them. So sometimes they'll allow their faces to be shown to you if they trust you. And sometimes that face will kind of seep back in, and that grain will not be seen again. And after I did mushrooms, I started seeing stuff everywhere. So after I did the first time, and then I started having awareness that everything is alive, everything has energy. And now years and years and years later, and I could look at things and see it, and it's like, whoa, it's right there if you are willing to look at it. And it's good practice. I don't know why, but it is good practice to get to know all the energies around you. And when you get to trust the Fae and they trust you, they will appear a lot more, if that's something you're interested in also. And a lot of times the sylphs in the air and the dragons in the upper atmosphere, those are the beings that live there in other dimensions. And they help formulate the clouds, and the sylphs somehow help the wind move along. I've read a lot of fairy books on all the different nature elemental spirits, and they're there and they'll play with you. Sometimes you'll feel them on your cheek. They'll come and touch you. You feel like the wind will come up really fast, and it feels like something touches you on the cheek or on the forehead sometimes. And I think it's the sylphs. I think that they really do. They want to come and play, they want to be loved and known, And it'll get to a point where you could take pictures and orbs will appear in the pictures. There was a lady over in Paradise, California, who took pictures of fairies in this one meadow behind her house. And I mean, her pictures were incredible. You could actually see the fairies. She would ask them to come. She would meditate. She would raise her vibration, and she would ask them to show themselves, and then they would be. And my friend Jude Dikoff, on his Instagram account, which is just Jude_Dikoff, and he is the Starseed Perspective host of that podcast. But he also, same thing, he's got pictures of fairies that aren't his, or a friend of his. So it's pretty interesting stuff. All right, we need to get right into it. By the way, I ran a little bit late on this part of the intro. So hold on, and we'll get right to space weather news. All right, guys, so we are in the wake of a geomagnetic storm, possible. We have passed through a magnetized wake of a CME that broke off the sun. It didn't go towards Earth, but it was so strong. It was very, very strong, and we're in the middle of feeling that right now. So if you feel a little bit strange, that might be why. Solar wind speed is 363.6 kilometers per second. There are absolutely no sunspots right now, and it's been 2 days like that. Let's see. We are in a situation where we have very high neutron counts in the atmosphere, which means we have lots of not nuclear radiation, oh my goodness, cosmic radiation coming our way. There's been no change in the past 48 hours. We remain at 10.2% of the space age average. Lots of amazing pictures of Comet Neowise. If you haven't seen it yet, look it up and see where it's going to be where you live. I know for me it's like 5:30 in the morning, so haven't quite gone out there yet at that time, but I really want to. I've been threatening to go see it before it leaves. There are no coronal holes on the Earth's side of the sun, so no news is good news. And according to NASA's All-Sky Fireball Network and the All-Sky cameras, there have been 10 reported fireballs over the United States. 8 were sporadic, 1 was the July Pegasus, and 1 was a microscorpiid. So there you have it for that. Schumann Resonance from disclosurenews.it is 10 hertz frequency, so not a lot going on over there in Italy. So let's go over to heartmath.org, which they're still 2 days behind. I don't know why, but here we go. So on the 11th of July, which was Saturday, at the 2300 hours, so practically Sunday, so about a day and a half ago, California was at 131 hertz frequency. And, someone came up off the mat. Makes me sneeze. I must be allergic to this number. Hofu, Saudi Arabia, 121 hertz frequency. So either their equipment started working again, or they really were at 0 this whole time and then came back up to 121. Interesting. They're definitely in the fifth dimension, right? Everybody is, so. But this is just the proof. Fifth dimension starts at 40 hertz. Lithuania was at 207 hertz frequency, while the big winner of Saturday was Alberta, Canada, at 260 hertz frequency. Now, Northland, New Zealand was quite a bit lower than everybody else at 68 hertz frequency. And Honolulu, South Africa, was at 251 hertz frequency. All right, we've been reading from A Course in Miracles, and today is no different. ACIM.org is the website for the Foundation for Inner Peace. So we're going to go ahead and read the lesson 332. Fear binds the world. Forgiveness sets it free. The ego makes illusions. Truth undoes its evil dreams by shining them away. Truth never makes attack. It merely is. And by its presence is the mind recalled from fantasies, awakening to the real. Forgiveness bids this presence enter in and take its rightful place within the mind. Without forgiveness is the mind in chains, believing its own futility. Yet, with forgiveness does the light shine through the dream of darkness, offering it hope and giving it the means to realize the freedom that is its inheritance. We would not bind the world again today. Fear holds it prisoner, and yet your love has given us the means to set it free. Father, we would release it now, for as we offer freedom, it is given us, and we would not remain as prisoners while you are holding freedom out to us. Fear binds the world. Forgiveness sets it free. Fear binds the world. Forgiveness sets it free. Again, that's lesson 332. All right, guys, we're going to come right back after these announcements, and I will be reading The Human Aura, which is a book from well over 100 years ago, written by Swami Panchadasi, otherwise known as William Walker Atkinson. Shh, don't tell his boss. He was a lawyer, and a lot of the books he wrote early on, he just didn't really want his business partners to laugh at him. He didn't want to be embarrassed, and probably he thought it was a little bit funny to write under a pseudonym, Swami Panchadasi. So, there you have it. I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, you're going to learn more about your own aura right after these messages. It's that time of year, guys. Finally. OMG. I am up for not only one, but 2 People's Choice Podcast Awards this year. I had no idea. I just found out. Okay, the voting starts today, July 1st, and goes through the 31st of July. And I need you guys to nominate my podcast. This is how you do it. Go to podcastawards.com and you have to sign up in order to nominate me, in order to vote. And you have to go to the very first category at the top, and it's the Adam Curry's People's Choice Podcast Award. And I'm way down on the list because, M, Metaphysical Soul Speak, the podcast. And you just click that. And then when you're done with that section, you go to the religion and spirituality category. And again, cast your vote for Metaphysical Soul Speak, the podcast. And then you have to go way at the bottom part of the page, and say, save my nominations. And that's it. It's that simple. It takes less than 2 minutes, probably 1 minute if you have high-speed internet, of course. It's not that much. You can even do this on your phone. It's super, super simple. I voted for myself on my tablet. OMG. So thank you for your continued support and listenership and voting for this show, because by doing so, you're keeping the show alive and we're getting the word out so that other people can benefit from my expertise. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you, and it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated, and now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. All right, guys, we are reading The Human Aura. This is chapter 5. It's where we left off last week. And so here we go. Chapter 5. The auric, A-U-R-I-C, the auric kaleidoscope. Oh, that sounds cool. All right. As we have seen, the human aura is never in a state of absolute rest or quiet. Motion and change is ever manifested by it. It has its periods of comparative calm, of course, but even in this state, there is a pulsing wave-like motion apparent. The clouds of changing color fly over its surface and in its depth like the fast-driven fleecy clouds over the summer sky, illumined by the rays of the setting sun. Again, fierce storms of mental activity or emotional stress disturb its comparative calm, and the wildest scenes are witnessed in the aura by the observer. So intense are the vibrations of some of these mental storms that their effect is plainly felt by the average person, though he's not able to distinguish the colors or the great whirls and swirls of the auric substance accompanying them. A person sunk in reverie, dream states, or sleep presents an interesting auric kaleidoscope. Ooh, that's a really cool idea. I never thought to look at someone's aura when they're asleep. Very interesting idea, right? If we could combine an aura camera with sleep studies, whoa, that would be so trippy. All right. So, a person sunk in reverie, dream states, or sleep presents an interesting auric kaleidoscope, which possesses great beauty if the person be normal and of average morality. In such a case, there is a cloudy clearness, if the term may be used, tinged with tints and shades of varying colors, blending in strange and interesting combinations, appearing gradually from previous combinations and sinking gradually into new ones. To the observer of the aura, the term opalescent instinctively presents itself. Yeah, I can imagine. For there is a striking resemblance to the opaline peculiar play of colors of delicate tints and shades in a body of pearly or milky hue. Color shades into color, tint into tint, hue into hue, as in the color scale of the spectrum, of which the rainbow is the most familiar example. But the rainbow or spectrum lacks the peculiar semi-transparency of the auric colors and also the constantly changing and dissolving body of colors of the aura. At this point, I wish to call your attention to a phase of the aura which I purposely passed over in the preceding chapters. I allude to the phase of the aura which presents the pearly appearance of the opalescent body, which we have just noted. This appearance is manifested neither by any of the mental or emotional states, nor is it the prana aura or vital force, which I described in a previous chapter. It is the manifestation of what is known to occultists as etheric substance, and is a very interesting feature of the auric phenomena. This etheric substance, which manifests this peculiar radiance in the body of the aura, composes that which is called by some occultists the astral body. But this latter term is also employed in another sense, and I prefer to use the term etheric double to indicate what some others know as the astral body. Etheric substance is much finer form of substance than that which composes the physical body. It is really matter in a very high degree of vibration, much higher than even the ultra-gaseous matter of physical substance. It may be sensed ordinarily only on the astral plane, which is its own particular plane of activity. The etheric double composed of this etheric substance is the exact counterpart of its physical counterpart, the ordinary physical body of the individual. Although it is capable of great expansion or shrinking in space. Like the physical body, it radiates an aura, and this combining with the other forms of the auric body gives to it its peculiar pearly appearance, which is the background of its opalescence previously noted. The etheric double explains the phenomenon of spectral appearances or ghosts, for it persists for a time after the death of the physical body and under some conditions becomes visible to the ordinary sight. It sometimes is projected from the physical body and at such times appears as an apparition of the living, of which there are many cases recorded by societies investigating psychical subjects. The etheric double or astral body is referred to here, however, merely to explain the peculiar pearly tint of the background or body of the aura. Okay. In and through which the mental and emotional auric colors play and move. It may interest you, however, to know that this phase of aura is always present around and about a ghost or dematerialized disembodied soul or spirit, as common usage terms it. The aura of the wide-awake person is, of course, far more active and more deeply colored than is that of the person in reverie, dream, or sleep. Okay. And again, the aura of the person manifesting a high degree of mental activity or strong feeling or passion is still brighter and deeper than the ordinary person performing his daily routine work. In the state of anger or love, passion, for instance, the aura is violently disturbed, deep shades of color whirling and swirling in the depths and surface of the auric body. Lightning-like flashes shoot forth and great bodies of lurid smoky clouds fly on the surface. Looking into the aura of a man wild with rage and passion is like peering into inferno. The astral plane in the region of a lynching mob or other body of persons filled with rage becomes a frightful scene of auric radiation. Okay, so like basically every protest going on in the United States right now, you could pretty much go check this out, right? A person filled with the emotion of pure love fills his aura with the most beautiful tints and shades of high rosy color, and to behold the same is a pleasure fully appreciated by the occultist. A church filled with persons of a high devotional ideality is also a beautiful place, by reason of the mingling of auric violet-blue vibrations of those therein assembled. The atmosphere of a prison is most depressing and presents a most unpleasant appearance to one possessing the astral vision. Likewise, the astral atmosphere of an abode of vice and passion becomes really physically nauseating to the occultist of high ideals and taste. Such scenes on the astral plane are avoided by all true occultists, except when the call of duty leads them to visit to give aid and help. Alright, so when they say an abode of vice and passion, in case you didn't catch it, they mean whorehouse. But to be honest, this is the same thing in bars, tap rooms, or whatever. When you go and you see people drowning their sorrows in their spirits, there really are spirits in those bottles, and sometimes those people get inhabited. Ooh, spirit entities and the like. So we'll see if he mentions this again. All right. There are two distinct features connected with the auric coloring of every person. The first is the coloring resulting from the more habitual thoughts and feelings of the person, from his character. In fact, while the second is the coloring resulting from the particular feelings or thoughts manifested by him at that particular moment or time. The color of the feeling of the moment soon disappears and fades away, while the more habitual feeling bound up with his character causes its corresponding color to abide more permanently, and thus to give a decided hue to his general auric color appearance. The trained occultist is, therefore, able to ascertain not only the passing thoughts and feelings of a person, but also to determine infallibly his general character, tendencies, past character, and actions and general nature, simply from a careful examination and study of the auric colors of the person in question. As all occultists well know, every place, dwelling, business place, church, courtroom, every village, city, country, nation has its own collective aura, known as astral atmosphere, which is simply but a combined reflection of the individual auras of the human units of which its body of inhabitants is made up. These atmospheric vibrations are plainly felt by many persons, and we are instinctively attracted or repelled by reason thereof. But to the developed occultist, these places manifest the auric colors and combinations arising from the nature of the mentalities of the persons dwelling in them. All right, I just had a weird thought. What if that's why our baseball teams have the colors that they have? Would that not be the weirdest thing? So when you're interested in the Dodgers, for example, does that mean LA is mostly blue and white? It's just a thought. I mean, there's other teams. The Lakers are gold and purple. You know, those are very high vibrational colors. All of those, actually. I wanted to point that out. I just had that thought. How weird is that? And I've noticed the energy of places are different. I've noticed that Denver, Colorado is a very neutral, energetic place. It's not positive or negative. It's just very neutral. And I don't know. I've noticed other places, like when they're very negative and very dense, dark, murky energy. And I've also been to places that I felt I was uplifted into another dimension immediately, where it's just high vibration. So I never thought about the aura of a place and the colors of a place. This is very interesting so far. I'm loving this. I hope you guys are too. So, each place has its collective aura, just as each person has his individual aura. The astral plane presents a wonderful scene of color by reason of this and similar causes. The harmony of the color scheme in some cases is marvelously beautiful, while the horrible aspect of scenes resemble a nightmare vision of the worst kind. It is easy to understand why some of the ancients who stumbled into glimpses of the astral plane while in dream state or trance reported the vision of terrible hells of unquenchable fire, fiery lakes of smoking brimstone, etc. For such ideas would naturally come to the mind of the uninformed person who had peered into the astral plane in such cases. And in the same way, the visions of heaven reported by the saints and others of high spirituality are explainable on the theory that these persons had sensed some of the beautiful scenes of the higher astral planes filled with the combined auric tints and hues of souls in high development. The principle of auric colors holds good on all the many planes of being and existence, high as well as low. I merely hint at a great occult truth in making the above statements. The thoughtful will be able to read between my lines. I have given you a little key which will unlock the door of many mysteries, if you will but use it intelligently. Chapter 6, Thought Forms. Ooh, I have told you guys about thought forms. Oh my goodness. I hope that you've remembered this discussion, because it's important. It's really important. That interesting phase of occult phenomena known as thought forms is so closely related to the general subject of the human aura that a mention of one must naturally lead to the thought of the other. Thought forms are built up of the very material composing the aura. Ooh, very interesting. I did not know that. and they manifest all of the general characteristics thereof, even to the auric colors. Again, did not know that. We're learning so much. It's awesome. And understanding of the facts of the human aura is necessary for a correct understanding of the nature of the thought forms composed of the same substance. A thought form is a peculiar manifestation of mental activity on the astral plane. It is more than a powerful disturbance in the body of a human aura, although this is the place of its embodiment or birth in the objective world. It is formed in the following manner. A person manifests a strong desire, feeling, or idea, which is naturally filled with the dynamic force of his will. This sets up a series of strong vibrations in the body of the aura, which gradually resolve themselves into a strong whirling center of thought force involved in a mass of strongly cohesive auric substance, and strongly charged with the power of the prana of the person. In some cases, these thought forms survive in the auric body for some little time and then gradually fade away. In other cases, they survive and maintain an almost independent existence for some time and exert a strong influence upon other persons coming in the presence of the person. Again, these thought forms may be so strongly charged with prana and so imbued with the mental force of the person that they will actually be thrown off and away from the aura itself, and they'll travel in space until they exhaust their initial energy, in the meantime exerting an influence upon the psychic aura of other persons. A thought form is more than merely a strongly manifested thought. It really is such a thought, but surrounded by a body of ethereal substance charged with prana, and even carrying with it the vibration of the life energy of its creator. It is a child of the mind of its creator, and acquires a portion of its life essence, so to speak, which abides with it for a longer or shorter time after its birth. In extreme instances, it becomes practically a semi-living elemental force of necessarily comparatively short life. To those who find it difficult to understand how a thought form can persist after separation from the presence of the thinker, I would say that the phenomena is similar to that of light traveling in space, long after the star which originated it has been destroyed. Or, again, it is like the vibrations of heat remaining in a room after the lamp or stove causing it has been removed, or the fire in the grate having died out, or like the sound waves of the drum beat persisting after the beat itself has ceased. It is all a matter of the persistence of vibrations. Thought forms differ greatly, one from the other, in the matter of shape and general appearance. The most common and simple form is that an undulating wave or series of tiny waves resembling the circles caused by the dropping of a pebble into a still pond. Another form is that of a tiny rotating bit of cloud-like substance, sometimes whirling towards a central point like a whirlpool, and sometimes swirling away from the central point like the familiar pinwheel fireworks toy. Another form is akin the ring of smoke projecting out from the coughing locomotive, or the rounded lips of the cigar smoker, the movement in this kind being a special form of spiral rotation. Other thought forms have the appearance of swiftly rotating balls of cloudy substance, often glowing with a faint phosphorescence. Sometimes the thought form will appear as a great slender jet, like stream like steam ejected from the spout of a tea kettle, which is sometimes broken up into a series of short, puffed out jets, each following the jet preceding it and traveling in a straight line. Sometimes the thought form shoots forth like a streak of dim light, almost resembling a beam of light flashed from a mirror. Occasionally it will twist its way along like a long, slender corkscrew or auger boring into space. In cases of thought forms sent forth by explosive emotion, the thought form will actually take the form of a bomb, which literally explodes when it reaches the presence of the person toward whom it is aimed. Every person has experienced this feeling of a thought bomb having been exploded in his near vicinity, having been directed by a vigorous personality. This form is frequently found in the thought form sent out by a strong, earnest, vigorous orator. There are strong thought forms which seem to strive to push back the other person, so correctly do they represent the idea and feeling back of their manifestation. Others seem to strive to wind around the other person and to try to literally drag him toward the first person. This form often accompanying strong appeal, persuasion, coaxing, etc., when accompanied by strong desire. A particularly vigorous form of this kind of thought form takes on the appearance of a nebulous octopus with long, winding, clinging tentacles, striving to wrap around the other person and to draw him toward the center. Ooh, I saw an octopus like that around Barbara Marciniak when I went to see her speak about the Pleiadians, and she was so negative and so rude that after she screamed at my 4-year-old, she pretty much everybody left, and they all called and got their money back. We all demanded our money back because she was talking about such negative and disgusting things that it made us all very emotionally uncomfortable. It had nothing to do with her books. It was very crazy. It was not all love and light. In fact, it was all evil and bad energy. And I saw an octopus wrapped around her head. It was like the tentacles. I mean, I don't normally see astral things like that. And that day I saw it, and it was like a bunch of tentacles wrapped around her, and they were gray, like dark, dark gray. And she kept squinting and saying, "Can you turn the lights down? Can you turn the lights down?" And they were so dim that we could barely see her on stage. And she kept complaining about the light. When someone complains about the light, it's pretty much because they want to be in the dark and put other people in the dark. And it was very dim. It was like the lights were so low, they were like candles. And they were half of a convention hall away from her. And it was very eerie, very creepy. So it's funny that he says this, the clinging tentacles wrapping around the other person. This was literally like a spirit entity attachment. And I think that's what she was calling the Pleiadians. And so a lot of people have gotten into her stuff lately because they're interested in Pleiadians. But I think her first or second book might have been okay. But there's one that gets into some really disgusting things, and that's about the time she got that spirit entity attachment. So I think like her first book, maybe her second book might be okay, and like her third book was like so negative and dark that don't listen to it, because ew, it's energetically not hygienic. Anyway, just moving right along with the actual book here. The force of the feeling behind the manifestation of the thought form will often travel a long distance from the sender. In fact, in cases of great power of concentration, space seems to be no barrier to its passage. In striking instances of thought transference, etc., it will be found that thought forms play an important part. The variety of shapes of thought forms is almost endless. Each combination of thought and feeling creates its own form, and each individual seems to have his own peculiarities in this respect. The forms I have above described, however, will serve as typical cases to illustrate the more common classes of appearances. The list, however, might be indefinitely expanded from the experience of any experienced occultist and is not intended to be full by any means. All varieties of geometrical forms are found among the thought forms, some of them being of remarkable beauty. In considering the subject of projected thought forms, moreover, it must be remembered that they partake of and manifest the same colors as does the aura itself, for they are composed of the same material and are charged with the same energy. But note this difference, that whereas the aura is energized from the constant battery of the organism of the individual, the thought form, on the contrary, has at its service only the energy with which it was charged when it was thrown off, being a storage battery, as it were, which in time expends all of its power and then is powerless. Every thought form bears the same color that it would possess if it had been retained in the body of the aura itself. But as a rule, the colors are plainer and less blended with others. This because each thought form is the representation of a single definite feeling or thought, or group of same, instead of being a body of widely differing mental vibrations. Thus, the thought form of anger will show its black and red, with its characteristic flashes. The thought form of passion would show forth its appropriate auric colors and general characteristics. The thought form of high ideal love will show its beautiful form and harmonious tinting like a wonderful celestial flower from the garden of some far-off paradise. Many thought forms never leave the outer limits of the aura, while others are projected to great distances. Some sputter out as they travel and are disintegrated, while others continue to glow. I just got a weird notification. Hold on. While others, where I missed it. Okay. Some sputter out as they travel and are disintegrated, while others continue to glow like a piece of heated iron for many hours. Others persist for a long time with a faint phosphorescent glow. A careful study of what has been said regarding the characteristics of the various feelings and emotions as manifested in the auric body will give the student a very fair general idea of what may be the appearance of any particular variety of thought form, for a general principle runs through the entire series of auric phenomena. An understanding of the fundamental principles will lead to an understanding of any of the particular varieties of the manifestation thereof. Finally, remember this: a thought form is practically a bit of the detached aura of a person, charged with a degree of his prana and energized with the degree of his life energy. So in a limited sense, it really is a projected portion of his personality. What personality? What? All right, let me check and see where we're at time-wise here. 30 minutes. Okay, we could do another chapter. Why not? Okay, chapter 7. Psychic influence of colors. In all of nature's wonderful processes, we find many evidences of that great principle of action and reaction, which, like the forward and backward swinging of the pendulum, oh my God, I did not read ahead, you guys. That was freaking me out after what I said in the first part of the night. I must be on the right track. It's another sign from the universe that, literally, I've never read this book before, and here we go. All right, let's reread that then. Sorry about that. In all of nature's wonderful processes, we find many evidences of that great principle of action and reaction, which, like the forward and backward swing of the pendulum, changes cause into effect and effect into cause in a never-ending series. We find this principle in effect in the psychic relation of mental states and colors. That is to say, that just as we find that certain mental and emotional states manifest in vibrations causing particular auric astral colors, so do we find that the presence of certain colors on the physical plane will have a decided psychic effect upon the mental and emotional states of individuals subject to their influence. And as might be expected by the thoughtful student, the particular astral colors manifested in the aura by the presence of some particular mental or emotional state exactly correspond with the particular physical colors which influence that particular mental or emotional state. Illustrating the statements in the preceding paragraph, I would say that the continued presence of red will be apt to set up emotional vibrations of anger, passion, physical love, etc., or in a different tint, the higher physical emotions. Blue of the right tint will tend to cause feelings of spirituality, religious emotion, or etc. Green is conducive to feelings of relaxation, repose, quiet, etc. Black produces a feeling of gloom and grief, and so on. Each color tends to produce emotional vibrations similar to those which manifest that particular color in the astral aura of the person. It is a case of give and take along the entire scale of color and emotions according to the great natural laws. While the explanation of these facts is not known to the average person, nevertheless, nearly everyone recognizes the subtle effect of color and avoids certain colors while seeking certain others. There is not a single living human being but who has experienced the sense of rest, calm, repose, and calm inflow of strength when in a room decorated in quiet shades of green. Nature herself has given this particular shade to the grass and leaves of trees and plants so that the soothing effect of the country scene is produced. The aura of a person experiencing these feelings and yielding to them will manifest precisely the tint or shade of green which is shown on the grass and leaves around him. So true is this natural law of action and reaction. The effect of scarlet upon animals, the bull, for instance, is well known. To use the familiar term, it causes one to see red. The sight of the color of blood is apt to arouse feelings of rage or disgust by reason of the same law. The sight of the beautiful clear blue sky sorry about that, tends to arouse feelings of reverence, awe, or spirituality. One can never think of this shade of blue arousing rage, or red arouse feelings of spirituality. Unless you're a Satanist. Okay, I'm just sorry, I had to add that. It is a well-known fact that in insane asylums, the use of red in decorations must be avoided, while the proper shades of blue or green are favored. On the other hand, the use of a proper red in certain cases will tend to arouse vitality and physical strength in a patient. It is not merely by chance that the life-giving blood is a bright, rich red color when it leaves the heart. When one feels blue, he does not have the impression of a bright or soft blue, but he really is almost conscious of the presence of a dull bluish gray. And the presence of such a color in one's surroundings tends to cause a feeling of depression. Everyone knows the effect of a gray day in the fall or the springtime. Again, who does not know the feeling of mental exaltation coming from the sight of a day filled with golden sunshine or from a golden sunset? We find proofs of this law of nature on all sides every day of our lives. It is an interesting subject which will repay the student for the expenditure of a little time and thought upon it. Speaking of the general class characteristics of the three primary groups of colors, all occultists, as well as many physiologists and psychologists, are agreed on the following fundamental propositions vis-a-vis that, number one, red is exciting to the mind and emotions. 2, yellow is inspiring and elevating and intellectually stimulating. And 3, blue is cool, soothing, and calming. It is also universally conceded that the right shades of green, combining the qualities of blue and yellow in appropriate proportions, is the ideal color of rest and recuperation, followed by a stimulation and new ambition. The reason for this may be seen when you consider the respective qualities of blue and yellow which compose this color. It is interesting to note that the science of medicine is now seriously considering the use of colors in the treatment of disease, and the best medical authorities investigating the subject are verifying the teachings of the old occultists regarding the influence of colors on mental states and physical conditions. All right, let me check our time here. All right. Oh my gosh, I checked it and it was 38 minutes and 38 seconds. Woo! There you guys go. There's a nice angel message for you. If you're into 38 lately, there you go. All right. All right. Dr. Edwin Babbitt, a pioneer in this line in the Western world, gave the general principles in a nutshell when he laid down the following rule. There is a triennial series of graduations in the peculiar potencies of colors. The center and climax of electrical action, which cools the nerves, being in violet. The climax of electrical action, which is soothing to the vascular system, being in blue. The climax of luminosity being in yellow, and the climax of thermism or heat being in red. This is not an imaginary division of qualities, but a real one, the flame-like red color having a principle of warmth in itself. The blue and violet a principle of cold and electricity. Thus we have many styles of chromatic action, including a progression of hues, of lights and shades, of fineness and coarseness, of electrical power, luminous power, thermal power, etc. Read the above statement of Dr. Babbitt and then compare it with the occult teaching regarding the astral colors, and you will perceive the real basis of the science which the good doctor sought to establish, and in which cause he did such excellent pioneer work. The result of his work is now being elaborated by modern physicians in the great schools of medicine, particularly on the continent in Europe, England and America being somewhat behind in times in this work. The advanced occultist also finds much satisfaction and interest on the part of physicians and jurists in the matter of the influence of color upon the mental, moral, and physical welfare of the public. The effect of color upon morality is being noticed by workers for human welfare occupying important offices. The American journals report the case of a judge in a large western city in that country who insisted upon his courtroom being decorated in light, cheerful tints instead of the old, gloomy, depressing shades formerly employed. This judge wisely remarked that brightness led to right thinking, darkness to crooked thinking, also that his court, being an uplift court, must have walls to correspond, must have walls to correspond, and that it was enough to turn any man into a criminal to be compelled to sit in a dark, dismal courtroom day after day. Yeah, I agree with that. And what's up with all the wood surrounding by? It's just too much. It looks like the hull of a ship. Really, an old-fashioned ship. This good judge, who must have had some acquaintance with the occult teachings, is quoted as concluding as follows: white, cream, light yellow, and orange are the colors which are the sanest. I might add light green, for that is a predominant color in nature. Black, brown, and deep red are incentives to crime. A man in anger sees red. Surely a remarkable utterance from the bench. The effect of color schemes upon the moral and mental welfare of persons is being recognized in the direction of providing brighter color schemes in schools, hospitals, reformatories, prisons, etc. The reports naturally show the correctness of the underlying theory. The color of a tiny flower has its effect upon even the most hardened prisoner, while the minds of children in school are quickened by the touch of a brightness here and there in the room. It needs no argument to prove the beneficial effect of the right kind of colors in the sick room or hospital ward. The prevailing theories and practice regarding the employment of color in therapeutics and human welfare work are in the main correct. But I urge the study of the occult significance of color, as mentioned in this book, in connection with the human aura and its astral colors, as a sound basis for an intelligent, thorough understanding of the real psychic principles underlying the physical application of the methods referred to. Go to the center of the subject and then work outward. That is the true rule of the occultist, which might well be followed by the non-occult general public. All right, we're going to check where we're at. That's the end of that chapter. All right, I think we're going to end here because the first part was so long. I try to give you guys a lot of information every day so that, a lot of you have long drive times or you want to wind down at the end of a day. And no matter how you do sit with Metaphysical Soul Speak, the podcast, I want to thank you for that. Thank you for your continued patience and confidence in me and your faith that I'm giving you the correct information. And I'm always open, if I ever teach something and then I find out that maybe it's not the way I thought, then I'll tend to go ahead and correct myself and let you guys know. If there's information that's updated, we've all moved to the fifth dimension. And even though a lot of the laws of nature and physics are the same, there might be some things that are a little bit more applicable now, or a lot less applicable now that we are here. So you might want to go check out Shri and Kira, by the way. They have a brand new video from yesterday, and they found a stone circle on their property. An ancient, thousands and thousands and thousands of years old stone circle on their property, which they are probably already starting to clear today. They discovered it like 2 days ago. Crazy, right? As we go up, 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 new things come to light. And this might be a very significant, historically significant site, and I don't know, I just thought that was really cool. I wanted to mention that. I thought that was neat. They live here in Ecuador. They're 45 minutes from me. I have never been there to Tosa Blue Mountain. I've never seen them. I don't know them in person. I have somebody who is a friend of theirs who's also I've worked with professionally, and it's funny that he's like the bridge between us. He's in Florida, but pretty cool that. But yeah, I don't know, guys. I feel like it's been weird. Like, they said that we're done with that 7 days. Mercury has gone direct. Thank you, God. We have just grown 7 years and 7 days. Today's the 8th day after the beginning of all that. And we're going to take a bit of a break until August, and then during the 8-8 week, that might be another acceleration week. So be aware of that. I don't know about you guys, but I felt very, very emotional today, very sad, crying, discouraged. In the later half of the day, in the early part of the day, I felt like I had a lot to get done and very little time to do it. Was the energy, that kind of hurried confidence. I was confident, and I started my classes in English teaching for my TESOL certification, and I was determined, and I started it, and it was my goal, and I completed my goal of at least beginning it. I didn't get through all the lessons I was hoping to today, but it's pretty exciting. I'm really grateful that I started it today. I feel pleased with myself, which is pretty cool. And well, there you go. There's that. I don't know. I feel kind of emotionally and spiritually spent, like exhausted. And if you do too, it's because of, growing 7 years worth of spiritual growth in a week. I have the feeling that the Divine Feminine is basically like me, gain off her duff, right? But overall, the collective, I feel like we are moving forward in the direction of our dreams, with or without our twin flames, if we are in twin flame relationships. And I feel like the Divine Masculine is owning up to a lot of his emotions and emotional baggage and healing a great deal of it by being really open and honest with himself and others about mistakes that were made on his behalf or towards him. And he's able to open up emotionally as we throw off the shackles of forced masculinity, which is a false construct. And the Divine Masculine is coming to light. And I've gotten lots of confirmation from many sources about this. Same thing with the Divine Feminine, like our divinity, whether we are incarnate with our twin flames or not, we are throwing off the shackles of what we think is feminine or masculine, what we think we ought to do because of our gender, or because our body says one thing. Maybe our mental gender is different than our physical gender, right? And we're finally starting to know ourselves in a different way and acknowledge that we might not fit into those stupid stereotypes that our parents and grandparents and society and teachers and God knows who else taught us. So pay attention to that this week. Make sure that you're, this is Monday. I'm recording this, and if you listen this Monday, a lot of you will listen to this on Tuesday for your drive time hour, or maybe for your evening, nighttime slumber right before you sleep. So, however you are here for the show, stay in your personal power, and if you're not in it, move into it. Claim it. I am claiming my divinity today, and I'm moving into that, and find how that shifts you. Even just saying it out loud shifted me just now. So anyway, I just want to bring up these things. Anyway, thank you for being my listener. I love you guys. A lot of you have already voted for me, so I wanted to say thank you. I did scope out and check the competition, the person who won last year. And she has a very interesting podcast, but she's done 6 seasons and only 50 episodes in those 6 seasons. I consider a season is a full year. And so I only have 2 seasons, and this is today is 133 episodes for my second season already. And my first season I had 364 episodes. So maybe next year I might break it down to 2 seasons and take a week and have a week-long vacation in the middle. But I'm still building this, and I wanted to ask you guys to please, if you will, if you take a moment and help me out, tell your people on your social media, on Twitter, on, Facebook, Tumblr, TikTok, Instagram. If you could just maybe take your favorite episode or the one you're listening to now and just make a little meme out of it and say, at Mermaid Girl 888, or you could say, hey, check out anchor.fm/metaphysical. That's the main address. Or just say, hey, on your favorite podcast player, app, or platform, look up Metaphysical Soul Speak, the podcast. ! That's how I spell it. Because there is a Metaphysical Soul and there's a Soul Speak. I'm Metaphysical Soul Speak, the podcast, and I have been Metaphysical Soul Speak since 2012. So some people didn't know that, I guess, and because I wasn't podcast yet, I was just a radio show. And so a lot of people, I don't want you to get confused. So please, when you tell people about it, just make sure it is Metaphysical Soul Speak, the podcast. Anyway, tell your people on social media about it. It will help me out. We'll get more votes. Yay, nominate me. A lot of you have already done it. I'm so grateful. It's super fun. Whether I win or lose, I'm super happy that I'm even nominated so many times. It makes me happy. But I feel like I'm finally accomplishing a goal, This coming Thursday is going to be the 500th episode. I'm cringing about this idea, but I'm considering going live on Instagram during that day for a few minutes before my big 500th episode. So if you want to say hi, I'll probably do that in the afternoon, probably around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, but I'll let you guys know more as the day approaches. But just keep your notifications open and your eyes and ears peeled, as they say, which is such a strange way of saying it, but yeah, there you go. All right, guys, that's it. I will be back tomorrow with all unique and original programming, just like always. And I hope that you are happy and safe wherever you are, that you're wearing the mask on your face for right now. There's a lot of super fun ones you can buy on eBay and Wish and probably even Amazon, God forbid. Just make it fun. There's a lot of, you can even draw on a mask, right? Maybe. I don't know. Possibly. Look it up. See if it's safe. But, I mean, do your best. Even put a bandana. I mean, I love the cowboy look. That's one of my favorite ways to have a mask. Just mine is a Misfits bandana. Maybe I'll take a picture of me wearing that for my Instagram one of these days. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to sign off, guys, with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time, guys, peace. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined, To support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.